Hello everyone, this is Sheila Shaffie and welcome back to another episode by ProcessArc. Let's continue on with our theme of entrepreneurship. And I know that when you're starting a company, you are thinking about a million different things, and perhaps picking a good accountant is not something that is at the top of your list. But I'm here today to tell you that a good accountant is probably one of the most important advisors that you can have, short-term and long-term, to make sure that you are successful. So let's talk through what exactly or how exactly is an accountant going to help you. Again, right at the beginning stages when you are launching your company, and then what else they could do as you're growing, what kind of services they can provide to you so that you can focus on growing your business. And then ultimately, how do you find a great accountant? So starting with point number one of what exactly is it that an accountant is going to do for you at the initial stages of launching your company is helping you figure out what the best tax structure is for the type of business that you are starting. So whether you are going to manufacture something, become a distributor, a reseller, deploy a software, or become a consulting practice, each type of business has the most optimal tax structure that can align to it. And the three most popular that you may have heard of already are S Corp, C Corp, and the LLC. So an accountant should technically sit down with you, listen to the story of your business and what it is that you're going to do and how it is that you're planning to run your business. And based on that information should guide you to picking the right tax structure. Now, this is incredibly important because it defines how the government or the IRS is going to view you, and then help define and calculate how much taxes you're going to owe at the end of the year. And switching between these two, once you set up your company, later on, 2 to 3 years downstream, becomes very complicated and difficult. So making sure that you've picked the right one at the start will help save you headaches downstream, and also helps you make sure that you're not paying more taxes than you should be based on the type of service that you have. So that's one piece of it. The second is, once you determine what kind of a corporation you want to be or what kind of tax structure you're going to select, you have to get yourself a tax ID. It's kind of like a social security number, but for your company. Because again, the government needs to know who you are, where you're located, what the name of your company is, and then at the end of the year, how much taxes should you be paying them. So to do that, an accountant can help you figure out how and where to register your organization and your company with the Department of Financial Institutions, which then in return will give you a tax ID. So these are all administrative things that can really bog you down mentally and emotionally because you know you have to do them, you just don't know how. But again, a good accountant can help take some of those activities off your plate and just do it for you. Once that stuff is out of the way, the biggest help, the biggest value that an accountant delivers is around tax optimization, which is figuring out at the end of the year what your tax obligations should be based on how much wages you took out, how much dividend distributions you gave yourself. So think of those as bonuses that you can give yourself. And then ultimately how much you're going to squirrel away in your retirement account. Those three levers, if planned appropriately by an accountant, can make sure that you are giving the optimal amount of taxes to the government. Now, I'm not saying do something crazy or don't pay your share, but the point is that as a business owner, you now have more levers to play with to come up with a tax value. And again, that's the responsibility of an accountant. You don't know all the tax laws. You shouldn't technically know all the tax laws. You don't even know what changes may be coming downstream from a tax law perspective. An accountant has all those thoughts technically in their mind as they're planning for your business. So that's really how I leverage our accounting firm in helping us figure out the optimal tax requirements or our tax obligations at the end of the year, depending on, again, how much bonus we take out of the business, what we pay ourselves and our employees, and then how much you can squirrel away. And one note here for all of you entrepreneurs out there: when you start a company, depending on how much wages you pay yourself, you can actually put away as much as $54,600 and some odd dollars a year in your retirement account. Now that's a hugely, vastly different number than the $19,000 that we've been trained to think about is our maximum limit as an individual or as an employee of a company. So when you start your company, you've got a lot of different options in terms of how you should save for your retirement. So that's kind of out of the way in terms of tax optimization. And the other thing as part of your year-end tax planning and tax filing is an accountant is going to help you figure out your quarterly tax obligations. Yes, this is not going to be a one-time a year affair with the IRS anymore. As a business owner, you need to be paying taxes quarterly based on what you anticipate your annual revenues to be. And you do that really for two reasons. One is to make sure that you don't end up with a massive tax bill at the end of the year, but to also avoid paying penalties in the event that you knew you were going to have decent amount of income and you didn't pay those taxes on a quarterly basis. So an accountant uses your historical performance, your financial performance, and then predicts how much you should be paying each quarter to avoid a large obligation at the end of the year and penalties. So those are, again, administrative things that an accountant can do for you and alleviate any unnecessary stress that may come about having to figure out all the different ins and outs of tax laws depending on the type of corporation that you've set up. Let's go to the second item on the list in terms of what types of services an accountant can provide to you. At a very high level, we touched on number one, which is to help you with tax planning and tax filing. The other two have to do with bookkeeping. So think about bookkeeping as balancing out your business on a month-to-month basis. How much money came in and how much money went out. Now, there are clearly software out there that you can purchase that you could use to manage your credit cards, bank statements, and your accounts receivable. And I did that honestly for years myself. But I also came to realize that after spending all that time entering the data into the software, I would send it over to my accountant and they would still have to spend time correcting it and making sure that everything balanced out month to month. So I thought, you know what, that's it. I give up. Why is it that I'm spending time doing it and then paying somebody else to correct my mistakes? This is really not my skill set. And for $150 a month at that time, I decided to ship the whole thing out to my accountant and outsource it. And that's something that you may decide to do over time as well. At the beginning, you may not have enough money coming in and out for it to warrant having to have somebody else do it. But as your business begins to grow and things become a little bit more complicated, that's again one of those tasks that your accountant, the bookkeeping part, can take over. And the last piece that an accountant can help out with is your payroll. So all the payroll processing, when you start having employees and you have to pay them whatever wages you've set for them, requires making sure that you are withholding the right amount of Social Security, federal, and state taxes. And again, that's what an accountant can help you figure out depending on your employees and salaries and wages and the elections that they have opted for. They can determine and make sure that they've set it up in the system correctly so that the right amount of money is being withheld so you don't end up in trouble and your employee doesn't end up in trouble. So that's the third service. Payroll processing is another service that your accountant can provide. And as you can see, payroll processing, bookkeeping, tax planning, and filing are incredibly connected and intrinsically involved with one another. So having everything done in one place will certainly save you headaches down the line. Last item on the list of how do you find a good accountant? And honestly, my best advice here is talk to other business owners that have found their advisor essentially and that they trust and they would be happy to refer to you. the thing you should do is certainly avoid working with large multinational accounting companies, because the reality is that they're going to put their top talent and their top resources to manage their most profitable customers. And of course, that makes business sense. So that leaves you as a small startup or a small business owner kind of down the list in terms of priority. And that's not really where you want to be, and that's really not what you want to pay for. And by the way, that's the other issue with working with a large accounting firm, is that their billable hours, their cost of their billable hours is significantly higher. So pick an accountant that fits the size of your business, that will give you the attention that you need, that is responsive and is there to help you grow and will grow with you essentially. So that's it in terms of an accountant. Again, I know you have a million things to consider. You're probably thinking about, finding a lawyer. You're probably thinking about your business plan, funding, how you're going to manage your everyday life now that you've got a business. You may not even have thought about an accountant, but really having an accountant has helped me in so many ways, making the right decisions for the business in terms of how we use our money, how we depreciate certain assets, and again, making sure that we are optimizing our revenue and holding on to as much as is possible for the growth of our business. Now, I would love to hear your thoughts. If you have accountants that you love and you like to refer, please leave them in the comments section below. If you have additional thoughts you would like to share or questions as you're starting out your business, I'm here. I look forward to seeing you next week. Please don't forget to subscribe, and thank you again for joining me today.